Thank you. Good evening, everybody. With any members or officers in physical attendance with electronic device, mute to avoid feedback. That includes you, Mike.
I've just found that.
Could remote participants keep their camera and microphone off unless they wish to speak, as this can affect the quality of the meeting. This meeting is being live webcast and recording stays on the council's website. I would like to welcome everyone to this evening's hybrid Western Area Committee, including anyone attending remotely. Following 12 Borough Council officers are in attendance. Director of Resources, Lisa Curry, online. Policy and Community Manager, Stephanie Curtis. Policy and Engagement Officer, Janet Dart. Head of Finance, Procurement, Claire Stanbury, online. The King County Council office in the area are in attendance, but they're not. Both have given apologies. Richard Palmer and Rich Lee have given apologies. That one. Do we have any parish councillors in attendance, either in person, remotely? And could you please introduce yourself?
Vivian Rich, councillor Pershing. And we're members of the public. Graham and Barbara Adcock.
Thank you.
When you got
Oh, sorry.
I'm Sue Chapman and I'm Bobbing Welsh Council.
Would any members of the public like to introduce themselves? That you've just done, haven't you? Have we got any more members online? Or the public, shall I say? Any item, please raise your hand and I will invite you in turn to speak. Likewise, could anyone attending remotely please mute their microphone until they speak and indicate the instant messenger if you wish to speak. Agenda item 1, emergency evacuation procedure. Please be aware of the evacuation procedures to follow in the event of an emergency. There is no scheduled test of the fire alarm during this meeting. If the alarm does sound, please leave the building quickly without collecting any of your possessions, using the doors signed as fire escape, and assemble outside where directed. Await instructions before re-entering the building. Should anyone require assistance in evacuating the building, please make 12 borough officers aware of any special needs, so suitable arrangements may be made in the event of an emergency. Agenda item 2, apologies for absence. Are there any apologies?
Yes, we have apologies from Councillor Roger Clark, Councillor James Hunt, Councillor Chris Palmer, Councillor Richard Palmer. I haven't heard from Councillor Monique Bonnet. I don't know if anybody knows if she's attending.
I have just asked.
Agenda item 3, minutes. Do members agree the minutes of the meeting held on the 9th September 2025, minute numbers 274 to 283 as correct reference? Okay, thank you. The declaration, agenda item 4, declarations of interest. Are there any declarations of interest? No, that's fine, thank you. Agenda item 5, budget 2026-27. The Director of Resources, Lisa Curry, and Head of Finance and Procurement, Claire Stanbury, are joining us online to talk about 12 Borough Council budget for 2026-27. If you have any questions, please ask questions and comments. Not after. Should have said after first. Okay. Thank you. Lisa.
Okay, thank you. Thanks everyone for coming. So I'm Lisa Fillery, the Director of Resources at Swale. I'm technically also the Section 151 officer, which is the statutory role that is responsible for the council's finances. Claire, do you want to introduce yourself?
Yep. Hi, everybody. I'm Claire Stanbury. I'm the Head of Finance and Procurement at Swale. I support Lisa with all the financial side of things, including the building of the budget for the future years.
Thank you. Janet? So the financial challenge that we have for Swale, the draft budget was agreed to go out to consult at last night's Policy and Resources Committee. So as a local authority, we must legally set a balanced budget. That means that anything that we can't just have a gap that isn't either funded by reserves or has some other savings plan behind it. We have to have, it has to balance, and we have to have a source of funding for that gap. We have currently got the budget that was published last night has a £665,000 budget gap that is being at this stage planned to be used from funded from reserves. Our costs go up every year, mostly the inflation based and increases in the demand for our services. For us, it costs just £1.6 million just to stand still. So that's for the inflation on our contracts. So the waste contract, which is our biggest one. We also have shared service arrangements and arrangements with other organisations. Our grounds maintenance contract as well, for example, and our public conveniences contracts, they all are subject to an annual inflationary increase, as well as pay award and our shared service costs. For context, our council tax, we can raise £417,000 is the maximum that we will get from council tax based on the number of dwellings that we have in the borough, and the amount by which we can increase our council tax, which is the referendum limit is set at 3% or £5, whichever is the greater. £5 for local district councils now is absolutely tiny. There's not very few local authorities in the country where £5 is actually less than the 3%. So that differential on the referendum limits is becoming more and more remote from where all local authorities stand with their Band D council tax limits at the moment. So for 25-26, that's the current year we're in, the Band D council tax, which is the average amount, that's how council tax is calculated, for Swale is £2,262.84, but that does also include the fire, KCC and police elements, and of that our element is literally £206.64 for the year. So that's 9% of the amount that we collect, and then if you're in a parish, then your parish precept is also on top of that. But also we don't get to keep that; we pay that straight to the parishes as well. So although we do all the collecting, we don't do all of the keeping. Our budget gap that we have that has been in place for a few years has predominantly been due to the hyperinflation. So the 1.6 million that I've said for next year, in prior years that's been a lot higher than that, when we have had hyperinflation. So that inflation at the moment is running between 3 and 4%. The legacy amounts that are built into the budget, because once they're in, the contracts have been uplifted, they are then in it for the duration of the contract, and we were running at 12 to 13% a couple of years ago, so you can imagine what that gap was looking like those years. So decisions are needed by members to raise income and make savings to offset that gap between what it costs to stand still, let alone any other growth items that are required, and the amount of money that we can raise ourselves through council tax. This budget is actually built on the moment with the uncertainty of the government funding, as the Fair Funding Review 2.0, which was consulted in over the summer, is due to be released. We've had the high level policy document a couple of weeks ago, but that doesn't give us the details of what that actually means for Swale. And on top of the funding review, there is also a business rates reset, and Swale has been quite lucky in the amount of growth that we have had since business rates were localised, but the reset is taking most of that away and redistributing it. So we are still awaiting the outcome of that. And so the budget at the moment is built on a neutral position, because the mood music is that we will be, what we lose in business rate growth is compensated by grant income, at least in the first year. But we don't know to what extent, because of the size of our growth, whether it will be fully covered. So we are operating at the moment as a neutral position, but those details will be refined once we get the settlement in the week before Christmas. Thanks, Janet. So this is our timetable to show how ongoing the process is for budget build. So this year's budget was worked on across party with leaders of all of the groups at Swale invited to join the budget working group. And then we have had monthly meetings from June to September to agree the principles and build the budget. So the amount that fees and charges would be increased by, the pay award assumptions that we're working to, and to assess the known changes to the budget. In September, heads of service were also part of that process by putting forward proposed changes to the budget, for example, where assumptions have been made previously that have not either materialised or have been estimates that we're now refining. In October, the budget was updated to reflect all of those changes with the budget working group, and the final version of that draft budget was presented to Policy and Resources Committee last night. The budget consultation was launched today based on last night's papers, and that will run from today until the 8th of January. The next week, Claire is attending the Parish Council Liaison Forum to talk about the tax bases, because all of your tax base requirements that feed into the council tax calculation, we need to be able to put into our budget papers for February. So Claire's doing a briefing to update parishes on that next week. As I've already said, hopefully the provisional settlement will be out the week commencing the 15th of December. We usually get it actually the week before Christmas. They've said it's going to be earlier this year, so let's keep our fingers crossed that that does come in then, so we've got more time to work through it. Between the 9th and the 23rd of January, we'll be reviewing the results of the consultation, and the feedback will be assessed with budget working group and Parish Council. Your deadlines for Parish Council precept submissions is the 16th of January. That is so that we can include it in the budget papers that we present to Policy and Resources on the 4th of February. Between the end of the budget consultation and the 4th of February, the budget working group will be finalising the budget proposals, taking account of what we then know about the provisional settlement. We still won't have the final settlement by then, but we will have a pretty good idea of what our ballpark figures are. And then on the 18th of February is when full council meets to approve the final budget. Thank you, Janet. So the key messages for this year's budget process, as I've already said, it was a new approach this year with a cross-party budget working group. Our estimated budget gap at the moment stands at £665,000. That's taking into account all of the savings proposals that are in the budget papers. It does assume a neutral position on the government grants and the business rate reset, but that is a risk because it is such an unknown, and as I've already said, because of the size of the numbers that we're talking about. The estimated budget gap over the term of the medium-term financial strategy peaks at 2.3 million plus 2.9 million of the uncertain grants. So that is over £5 million in 28-29. And as we've already said, the current service levels cost an additional £1.6 million a year. That will just increase as the base budget increases, the contract price increases, the inflation, assuming inflation doesn't go through the floor, then that will continue to rise. Reserves have been used to help set a balanced budget in the past, and that is the case again today with the £665,000. But as things stand, with the unknown information about the grants, our reserves will all be gone by 29/30 if the savings and a solution is not found to the budget gap. This is not sustainable because our funding from reserves is not it's a sustainable way to manage our budgets on an annual basis. It's for one-off funding, and once it's gone, it's gone. So we need to identify more savings and additional income to make the budget balance over the medium term. As I've already said, this is based on a number of assumptions which can and do change. The council tax increase is less likely to actually change this year. We would have, in the past, it has been hoped that we would have more flexibility about the increases. That is not looking very likely. The government funding that we don't know about yet, income projections, and our cost pressures. Thanks, Janet. So our spending priorities. It's important to understand that we have two separate budgets that we can't mix. Our revenue budget is for our day-to-day services. That's where the budget gap of the 665,000 sits. So that's for things like the Waste and Streets contract, the running of beach huts and the beach hut income that we get from the licenses, and the running of our CCTV. There are little pictures to illustrate the kinds of services that the revenue budget supports, but it's also, you know, all of the running service of our IT systems, homelessness, Steph's team in the community area, and also at the moment some of the one-off the costs that we're having in the run up to LGR. At the moment, there is only a very small amount in the budget for the work that we would need to do before the unitary is formed. And then our capital budget. This is a separate one-off ring-fenced for long-term projects only. And we can't legally use this money to pay for day-to-day services. So if we sell any of our capital assets and get a capital receipt, we can't use that to pay for the waste contract, for example. We could use it to pay for the vehicles to support the waste contract, but we can't use capital financing for revenue, but we can use revenue for capital. So they're the two elements of the budget that were in the papers last night. Thank you, Janet. This is a summary of the revenue position. The current budget is the 25-26 position, where our total net cost of services is £26.4 million. That includes fees and charges and specific grant income for services as well. So that is the net position for our cost of services. We then have £1 million levy that we have to pay the Drainage Board. That is a statutory requirement. We have to pay whatever they ask us to pay. And so if they increase by more than the referendum limit of the 3% of council tax, then that has to be found from within the council's services, and savings have to be made to cover that. We are also using our business rates pool at the moment, because we are in, for the 25-26, we are in a shared pool with other Kent authorities, where we are retaining as much as possible of the growth across the county within the county. And then they're the grants that we have got in the current year. The revenue support grant is traditionally the grant that we get from government to support our revenue funding. As you can see, it's 362,000. That used to be millions. And we have had a new grant this year to support our waste contracts, which is extended producer responsibility. That is funded by the industry, with the government's aim to try and reduce packaging waste. The business rates, as I said, that's quite a significant amount of our income. So £12 million is what we have got in our business rate retention. New Homes bonus, which for those who have heard me speak before, have said for the past however many years, this is the last year of New Homes bonus, because that's what the government told us. This year really is the last year of the New Homes bonus. So that will disappear next year. National insurance contributions, we got a one-off grant for that last year when government put the national insurance contributions up. Doesn't cover our costs. Our costs were nearly £300,000, so that was another gap that we had to find in the existing year. But we did get this additional recovery grant last year, or this year. Sorry, I've moved into next financial year already, so forgive me if I get the years wrong. At one point, we're working in 3 different years at the same time. So our net position, which is what is covered by council tax in the current year, is 10.4 million. Then, as you can see, moving through the years, the uncertain grants, I've moved those from the grant lines to a line on its own, the 2.8 million. And then we have got, still assuming the 12 million pounds for business rate. That will look very different once we get our final assumptions from government. We also use the tax base is the average, so the band D equivalents within the district, our council tax amounts, how much that's increased by in percentage terms and in pounds, and then assumes tax-based growth over the duration of the strategy. Thanks, Janet. So this slide shows you where the growth, savings and income have been distributed against our different types of services within the council. So our budgets are reported by heads of service and grouped accordingly. So we've got those services running down the side, including our MKSs, our Mid-Kent services, our shared services, where we share services with a range of other councils, mostly Maidstone and Tunbridge Wells, but also Ashford as well on some of those services. The corporate overheads and capital financing is where we have things like our pension fund costs, our costs of borrowing, so where we have to pay for our capital financing that I've already mentioned before, that comes out of a part of a revenue budget, so that's the kind of thing that's included in there. The collection funds position is managed annually and then accounted for 2 years ahead of the year that it is finalised in. So that collection fund deficit in the current year is actually 2 years ago, and then the £30,000 growth that is going in for next year relates to the difference for the year ending the March 25. That fees and charges line is what we use when we're putting a generic amount of fees and charges in. So we haven't got zero fees and charges. It's something where we have, if we put an inflationary assumption in that we haven't allocated to a service, we put it on that line, but we haven't got any for that this year. And as I've already said, so the drainage board figure is the £1 million, and then the growth is the assumption that we have got on the inflationary increase of that. So next year that will be 1,089,000. So the different columns to show the growth, the savings and the income that are in the budget proposals and how they are allocated to the different services. Thanks, Janet. So to close the budget gap, the savings or new income must be found, and that means that the council has to make difficult decisions and trade-offs. So to generate income to fund the services such as parks and the street cleaning, the council plans to increase our share of the council tax by 2.96%. The reason it's not rounded up to, it has to be below 3%, and the reason it's not 2.99% is because it has to divide by 9 to make the council tax bands work properly. Claire will be explaining more about that next week at the parish council meeting. So for the Swale element of the council tax, that is £6.12 per year, which is less than 12p a week. So, and of that, we only get to keep 9 of every pound of council tax that you pay us, with the rest of it all going to the other preceptors that I've told you about. So the proposed changes to fees and charges include a 10p increase in hourly parking charges and the removal of the current 30-minute parking charge within car parks. And to help balance those changes, a new flat rate evening fee of £2.50 for evening visitors is proposed, and a reduction to all-day parking charges is also proposed in some of the long-stay car parks. Planning to review the external grants to save £20,000 and to save £160,000 by reviewing how things are done in our services, including the services that were provided at the Faversham office, customer services, how we do things, and some providing in-house some of the services that we are currently paying external consultants to do. Thanks, Janet. So this is a summary of the capital programme. Most of our capital programme now is built by using either our existing reserves that have been ring-fenced or for grant funding. So limiting the additional cost and pressure on the budget with what is required through borrowing. So the significant projects that are in next year, the local affordable homes, I've spelled affordable wrong, affordable housing project is one that has been agreed in the base budget many years ago, but it hasn't been spent. So that is a reprofiling of an existing project that has already been approved. It is hoped that if subject to government grant funding, will get off the ground pretty soon. And the continuation of the levelling up scheme of Beachfields project in Sheppey, and the leisure centre improvements generally. We've got some obligations that as landlord we have to update some of our capital equipment. So that is a provision that is in their budget for next year as well. Thanks, Janet. So the high level position of the budget, currently anticipating the gap, you're going to be bored of me saying that figure, in 26-27. So the budget pressures are almost entirely as a result of inflation and increasing of utility costs. As you can imagine, leisure centres are quite a big user of utilities, and with the increases that have been seen everywhere, that means that service is hit especially hard with those additional costs. We have increased demand for some of our services, so like our provision of homelessness, for example, and then with the cost of that provision increasing also, as the placement costs go up, then our costs go up. To help try and counter that, we're increasing income across a number of our services, so both fee increases and activity increases where we can. Operational efficiencies being made by all teams. That's a constant ongoing review of how we do things. Use of the business rates pool for the final year of new funding, because the change to the business rate position means that the business rate pool is no longer viable, and so the membership has folded for that for next financial year, with a view for reviewing it to see how the reset goes and impacts all of the districts and the county councils within Kent. At the moment, we're operating on a 1-year settlement, and the uncertainty about grant funding continues. We are hoping for a multi-year settlement. That's what's been promised. I've just read part of a policy document this afternoon that says it's going to be 3 years. So that would be great. It gives us much more planning capability when we are able to see what we're getting in future years. And as I've already said, the budget gap peaks in 28-29, with a combination of the gap and the loss of grants at £5.1 million. Thank you, Janet. So last night the budget was approved for consultation. It will run, the consultation is live today. There is a link, and it can be found at swale.gov.uk/budget-consultation. I feel like I'm on Strictly. So if you want to contribute to the consultation feedback, please do, and that's where you can find the link. I don't think I've put any questions. I forgot to put my any questions. No, sorry, that's supposed to say any questions.
Councillor Baldock?
Yeah, thanks, Lisa. Nice to see the Beatles at the end there.
Pardon?
Nice to see the 5 Beatles at the end of your presentation. Yesterday's budget, it wasn't it was the day before. Yesterday's budget.
Okay.
It was for 11 hours. There's talk about planning to reduce the business rate for some leisure activities. Given that we've had a lot of an increase in that in recent times, is that likely to have an impact on us?
I haven't read any of yesterday's budget stuff yet, Mike, but generally when the government make changes to the business rate, what are they called? Subsidies, we are compensated by grant income. So actually for us, when they make those changes, we are guaranteed the income because the government pay the subsidy that they are issuing, they pay us in grant income. So unless it's not covered by Section 31 grants, which they always generally are, then that shouldn't be a problem for us. In fact, it adds more certainty to our collection rate because the government are paying it instead of the business.
Excellent, cheers.
Any other questions?
Yeah.
So I can go have my dinner now.
Yes, thank you very much, Lisa.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you.
Okay, so come and listen. She's heard about umpteen times.
Yes,
probably knows what part.
Yeah.
Moving on, agenda item 6, local government reorganisation updates. Policy and Communities Manager, Steph Curtis, is going to give a presentation on the local government reorganisation. And again, questions afterwards, please.
Apologies in advance, because I think quite a lot of people have probably heard quite a lot of people before, but I'll hopefully canter through some of the slides, and if there's any explanation for those that don't know much about local government reorganisation and want me to clarify, please just show. Slide, please. My brain's not working,
Yeah.
it's like the rain doing slides to the school on this. So just in terms of some context and where we are, I was not actually good enough to read what I've written. It's a bit hard work lesson. Yeah. You just try to make it more visual with lovely little graphics and make it right. Oh, I'll just thank you. I've got distance ones. I'll read these out. So in March, government invited in local authorities to submit initial local government reorganisation proposals. And all of us that were invited, so this is Kent and Medway, we put forward some initial sort of business cases, so to speak, around our initial thoughts about how local government reorganisation can work for our area. Following that, the business case development work started. Actually, it was recognised that for Kent and Medway, really, we do need some specialist consultants to try and help us with that process. So collectively, we appointed KPMG as that strategic lead for Kent to help us through this process. And this is the timescales that we have been working towards. So phase one was around appraisals of different geographies. For those that have kind of been involved in this process since the beginning, there's been a lot of different discussions about geographies, what different geographies can work for different unitaries within Kent. And that process around what those different options could look like has sort of lasted for quite a few months. But on again, I'm not sure whether I've got a slide that's covering some of these as we go on, but Medway leaders got together in late August to decide actually of all these different geographic options, which ones should be worked up into a full business case. The government, when they invited us to take part in this process, gave us 6 key criteria to build business cases around. That included ensuring a single tier of sort of local authorities, how it could fit with the solution angle. So that's around power and mayoral strategic authority being eventually developed, and powers being devolved from government. That's not something that's happening in Kent Medway at the moment, but it's something that in theory should happen in the future. So they wanted us to consider how all of that could work in the future. Around community engagement, ensuring that whatever new councils are put into place are financially stable and able to cope with sort of the changes that have come forward. So the key criteria that they wanted the business cases to be written around. Kent and Medway leaders came together in the beginning of September to decide which geographic options should be looked at, and 2 were agreed as the ones to be developed. However, a couple of the councils felt that there were other geographic options that were more suitable, so we've ended up with 5 different business cases being developed. Each local authority within Kent then needed to decide, well, actually, of the different business cases, what is our preferred option? And that is the process that everybody's been going through the last couple of weeks, with submissions to government due to be made tomorrow. The next point to add is that actually, although councils have debated which geographic business case is the best for their area, ultimately it's down to government to make the decision about what models will be implemented. So after the submissions tomorrow, we are expecting public consultations to take place in early spring, and then for a decision on what unitary models will be implemented by summer recess, so mid-July next year. And then shadow elections for the new authorities would be expected in May 27, and the new unitaries to go live on 1st of April. Some of this, yes. So we've got the strategic partner working with Kent and Medway authorities. And ultimately 5 different business cases have been developed. And we share this slide somewhere afterwards, don't we, Janet, or the room? Oh, the minutes, in minutes, if we can put the head council leaders website in, that is where all the business cases for the different geographic options are available. And all of them have got a 4 or 5 page executive summary if anybody wishes to go and read. So, and again, I appreciate the maps are quite small, but these are the maps of 5 different business cases. One is, they've got letters and numbers, which is how we've ended up with the different, being able to differentiate between the different options. And the labelling and the numbering kind of came from the long list of 10 a couple of months ago. But the single unitary 1A literally would be all councils grouped together, but then with 3 area assemblies underneath that, and those area assemblies would have budget allocated to them by the main council, and there's some devolved powers to deliver services. And in that model, we would be grouped with Medway, Dartford and Gravesham. Then there's option 3A, which is 3 separate unitary councils, which would see us grouped with Medway, Gravesham and Dartford. And then there are 2 4 unitary options. 4B, which sees us grouped with Ashford, Folkestone and Hythe. 4D, which there's no way from that map you're going to be able to understand, sees lots of chopping and changing. So in 4D, Swale is in effect cut into 3. So part of Sittingbourne down, I think with this one, the line is just this side of Tenham rather than the Faversham, like the Sittingbourne side of Tenham rather than the Faversham side of Tenham. That part of Sittingbourne and Sheffield would be with part of Medway, part of Dartford and part of Gravesham.
No, just part of Medway.
Sorry? Part of Medway. Maybe I'm losing track of it. And then part of Faversham, sort of north of the A2, north of the M2, would be with Canterbury, Dover, Thanet, and part of Folkestone and Hythe. And then part of Faversham and Sittingbourne villages that are all south of the M2 would be with Maidstone, Ashford, and the remaining part of Folkestone and Hythe. And then option 5A, which would see everybody divided into 5 unitaries, which again sees Swale cut in half. So very much more Faversham tendency, where the direct parishes outside of Faversham would go with Canterbury and Thanet, and the rest of Swale would go with part of Medway.
Okay, part of Gravesham and part of Dartford.
No, not in the
No,
5. No, not in the 5.
You sure?
Yeah.
5 it goes along the top.
Yeah, no, that would be it's Medway. It's part of
You're
Medway,
right, that's just
Dartford,
Medway, yes. Thank God for that.
They're all very similar in senses and different in others. What am I going to do next? So this is 4B. So again, if you wanted to look at the full business cases, they are available on the Kent Leaders website, and they are equally available in the papers that were published for our council meeting last week. 19th, last week. So Swellborough Council met last week, and after sort of numerous debates, the business case that was felt to be the best option to recommend to government is 4B. So this is the one that sees Swale grouped with Ashford and Folkestone and Hythe. For those councils that have been, well, all the councils have been working on the development of the business cases, that they became grouped that at the initial stages felt that one option would probably be their preference. The Swale Borough Council officers have been involved in the development of the business case for 4B, and those councils work together on this wording effectively around why we think this one is best. Ultimately, it's felt that 4B, because it's creating 4 unitaries, actually it's large enough to deliver efficient, high quality services, which is ultimately what the government wants to see as a result of this process. Actually still small enough to be able to preserve local identity and to be able to remain close to communities. And actually, when you look at the size of the population and the other key criteria that we've been asked to develop these business cases around, actually 4B gives the best balance of all of those different criteria. I'm not going to read all of this out, but effectively, this gives a bit of some of the arguments for the from government. So 4B does establish a single tier of local government, which is one of the asks. It's felt that it will deliver high quality and sustainable services, focusing on early intervention and prevention, which is something that maybe isn't quite, like councils aren't quite as able to do at the moment. Because of its size, because of its population, actually it should be able to support larger tax bases but lower costs. And actually the cost of all of the business cases, there's been a lot of work done around the finances, how much they're going to cost, how long it will take to pay back, the savings that can be generated. And again, this business case does give quite a good balance of all of those things. And it's felt that actually it should, although the council to elected ratios will be higher than they are with single, the two-tiered, probably got actually 4B gives a better balance of that than some of the others. We've also done some engagement at a Swale level with our key partners, with the voluntary and community sector, as well as member workshops. There were concerns around councillor numbers, but actually quite a lot of opportunities have been recognised that we feel that LGR can bring, including opportunities to deliver services differently, to try and reduce the impact on duplication and accountability. And I'm sure everyone around the room has experienced residents coming to them with an issue that actually is a KCC issue rather than a Swale issue, and the circles that can go round and round and round and trying to get somebody to resolve them. So, you know, that's kind of some of the positivities that we believe that LGR will deliver. So in terms of next steps, we are submitting our third business case to MHCLG tomorrow. All the other councils have been agreeing again which model they prefer. The last one is Ashford, which I think have probably met by now, because I think the meetings were between 5 and 7, or might have been 5 and 8 this evening, but Ashford was the last one we were waiting for. It's been very split across all the councils as to who prefers which option, so all 5 business cases have got some level of support forward. So we are now expecting the public consultation to be led by government on all viable options. So that is all the options that they believe meet all of the criteria that we're invited to our business cases around, and we're expecting that by the spring, with the decision to take, well, to be with us by summer recess. That might have been one. Any question?
Have a slide saying which way each of the other councils voted. I saw that Folkestone voted for 3A.
Yeah, but now you're going to try and provide which. So KCC have gone for option 1A, which is the one that they developed themselves, and Dartford and Gravesham have gone for 5A, which is again the ones that they funded themselves. 4B is us, Dover and Thanet. Ashford we're expecting to either be 4B or 4D. I've just not heard which one. And then 3A is Folkestone, Tunbridge Wells, Maidstone, Tunbridge and Morley, Sevenoaks. I feel like maybe I'm missing one.
No, but
No, I think that's all of them. So yeah, very split. I think the government have recently, in the last week or so, published the consultations for the areas that are invited to go through the devolution priority programme. And again, when you look at the lists of which councils are supporting which models, again, they're very split. Lots of consultation options for each county area. Yeah.
when they said we're going to consult on all viable options, how are they going to assess that? Do we know any idea? Because some of the ones that have been proposed don't even meet their criteria.
Well, that's the thing, isn't it? So it's the 6 main criteria that are sort of one of which is a single tier and supporting devolution. So there's certainly one that we don't necessarily feel meet that, but I suppose it's for the I mean, I think within the business case, KCC have written out how they think it doesn't devolution, how it could work alongside it. So yeah.
Was one of the criteria that they don't split areas up like
Yeah.
well?
So not
That's three,
not-
the only one
not-
being split.
Yeah, so not the actual 6 criteria, no, it didn't say that. When the invitation first came out, they did say they didn't want boundaries to be split. Then they came back and said if evidence can be provided as to why existing boundaries should be split, they would consider it. Whether or not fitting them as much as been proposed in one of the options.
Yeah, times three.
Do we know how, from previous round of devolution, how different what was submitted went out into consultation? Because I know in Suffolk or Suffolk
Sorry.
or Surrey,
Yeah.
one of those S's, everybody came in favour of 3 units being ended, and then the government just said, no, yeah, right, we're going for 2.
Yeah.
Did they actually consult on 2 or 3, or did they just?
Yeah, they consulted on, yeah, I think they were 3 that they put forward.
For
And then they consulted on
consultation.
2 of them. And then
Right.
the one that wasn't what the.
So we've put 5
It's
forward.
gonna be, yeah, we're putting forward 5 and they may well consult on 5.
I can sort of find. That makes it easy to pick, don't it? 'Cause if there's no agreement. It's a shame Folkestone and Hyde changed their name from Shepway to Folkestone and Hyde. Then we could have called the new proposal Sheppey to Shepway. Everybody would have thought, no, what's what?
What did you call it the other day? Swaff?
Swash, yeah. Well, it's better than Scat, wasn't it? Because Swell can't really have done it. It was bowed to a music style.
Any other questions?
Thank you very much for all the work you've put into this. It had to be said.
I'm sure you're sick of me talking about it.
Let's think of talking.
You could be doing so much more useful stuff,
Yeah.
shall we say?
It's not my normal day job to do.
Well,
Yeah, presentation. Just changing it, it's snazzy.
Well, thank you very much, Steph. That was enthralling. Oh, I don't know how they're going to choose. At the end of the day.
Well, what we chosen, we're just waiting for us to sit there and wait.
Yeah,
Be told.
I wasn't going to say that.
We don't know which way it's going to be. Yeah.
Okay,
Should have a revolution.
yeah, moving on.
Revolution.
If there's no more questions, great. Agenda item 7, community governance review update. Councillor Mike Baldock, the Vice Chair of the Community Governance Review Member Steering Group, is going to give a presentation on the community governance review.
Well done.
Yeah, thank you, Mike.
Okay, I'll shortly hand over back to. But yeah, community governance review. This is the potential for the biggest shake-up in parish councils, at least since 1974. It comes in light of, in the context of a local government review as well, because one of our concerns as councillors is that with these huge unitaries being imposed on us, local communities are going to feel they're going to lose their identity. It's going to be harder to get your voice heard across the unitary covering many communities than it is just across Swale. So that's one of the sort of driving forces behind it. There's also in our that corporate strategy, because as a principle, it's right to give people the chance to have a greater say over what happens in their area. And one of the big gaping holes is the lack of a Sittingbourne Town Council. Faversham's got a very effective town council. Say that 'cause there's no one from Faversham here. They've got a very effective town council. Sheerness has recently got a town council. Most of the villages and rural areas of Swale are parished. Bit on the island it isn't. But Sittingbourne just hasn't got this voice. This, sort of. So part of this is to, find out whether or not people of Sittingbourne would like a Sittingbourne Town Council. There's also a chance for the parish councils in the rural areas to maybe tidy up some of their boundaries to reflect recent housing developments that have been inflicted upon them. At the moment, we have parish boundaries that go through houses. So if you go in through the front door, you're in bobbing. If you go out the back door, you're not. Crazy stuff like that. So it gives a chance to regulate that, to maybe incorporate some of the new developments within parish boundaries, or to consult with whether or not people want their own parish council or no council. So it has the potential to be the biggest change in parish councils since, I say, 1974. The Community Governance Working Group will had their terms of conditions, or whatever it's called, heads of agreement agreed. That's it, terms of reference agreed. So it's been sanctioned that we could do what we were doing. There's going to be we've asked parishes and people to express some ideas at this point. There's going to be a consultation starting soon. Steph will cover that. I can't remember the dates. And that will be an opportunity to ask people their thoughts on the suggestions that have been made. So some of the parishes have submitted suggestions for boundary changes. We want to see what people in those areas that are affected would be, would they be in favour? And then in the new year, when all these consultations have been received, we will go out to a second round of consultations, which will be proposals. And then those proposals will be based on evidence from the first round of consultations. Once those proposals have been consulted on, it will come to full council eventually to vote on what actually happens. Now, it isn't incumbent on the council to agree with what the public say necessarily, because what you may see in something like a Sittingbourne Town Council, you might have certain areas that don't want to be in it. The majority of people in an area don't want to be a part of Sittingbourne Town Council, but you couldn't just, it would be logical to just remove those 2 or 3 streets and leave them unparished whilst the rest of Sittingbourne went ahead with the town council. So those are the decisions that will be made, and I think they'll be made in the autumn for recommendation. We have a year from once we started this to actually get through to the final proposals, and we just want councillors to go out and engage with people, because we need people to respond to these consultations. We need to show that there is an interest one way or the other. And it's quite hard for us in this room because most of us are already in parished areas. But there are bits of west of the 849 that are unparished or are in Kemsley. So we need to be talking to those people, but also Milton, Merston and Kemsley are big communities that may want to have their own council rather than be part of a bigger Sittingbourne council. That's quite important. And we do have the possibility that some people in Tunstall are saying, should Tunstall change? Should Tunstall change its nature? Should the urban part be part of Sittingbourne Town Council and the rural area continue as a separate parish council? So there's a lot of issues that do affect our area. And I think I've probably got on enough now. Over to you, Steph.
I think you covered pretty much all of it. Thank you. Don't go too many now.
Then effectively, the process by which we need to follow for the community governance review is very much set out in legislation, hence the 12-month time period from when the terms of reference is published. I guess part of that is about just making sure that the decision is timely and that it doesn't end up taking too long. I think we've covered all of that.
Dates we didn't.
And as we said, actually, it is about creating new town and parish councils, but actually it could be about merging or altering the naming. We have had one representation from a parish council on the island about a name change, tidying of ward boundaries. So, as Mike said, we've invited representations from existing town and parish councils, and the member steering group is meeting again next week to decide which option we would like to put forward to the first stage consultation. You all know what parish and town council is important, so I don't think we need to cover that bit. So we are aiming to start the first stage consultation on the 18th of December and it will run until the 9th of February. We are finalising exactly what that consultation will look like, and once we have a member steering group next week, we can sort of start to promote that a little bit more. But as Mike's already said, actually trying to get people out and about explaining what this means and what parish and town councils can do. There will be some kind of leaflet that we've stolen from the previous CDRs that kind of help with that process. Then part of the battle will be, obviously, there is a cost to this, and we need to be upfront about that, but it's trying to sell the benefits of what's happening, you can do. There will be an online form, there'll be paper forms, and yeah, the more that we can do to explain. And again, as Mike said, the first stage very much is about all the options on the table. The halfway is the area on the island that is currently unparished, so that as an example, it could be that halfway has its own parish council, it could be that actually it merges with one of the 3 existing ones that surround it. So those will be the options that go forward to public in the first stage, and then depending on what that looks like, the second stage might be the formal one to say, right, actually, halfway residents, we want you to vote on having your own parish council, because that was the most popular one for the first stage. So that as an example is kind of how we feel it will work. And then once it's been through all the different consultations and the full council decision, it is aiming that any changes will be implemented at the April 27 local election.
There is one thing which I think hasn't come up, which we probably ought to be mentioning from now on. People are saying, not residents, but it's being suggested that maybe areas won't go with a town council and see how it goes. But what has to be remembered is once this is set, it is going to be very difficult for an area that's unparished to join Sittingbourne Town Council, because it will be warded. It will be once it's established, another community governance review is not likely to happen unless you go through the official triggering process. And I don't think you can trigger to a parish. So it's not a case of you can opt out and see if you want to join in 5 or 6 years. If you're not in Sittingbourne Town Council area as a result of this review, you are going to be unable to join it potentially a couple of decades, because as I say, they'll be warded. That boundary will be really hard to change.
Some of these we wrote with a view of sort of members of the public to explain. And there is a CGR email address set up, so again, if anybody has questions, comments, etc., then that will be available as well.
I grew up in Sittingbourne. My parents had shops in Sittingbourne. It was always the Sittingbourne and District Council before Swale. Yeah, it went quite a long way out. Obviously, reason to target an petition. I find it quite horrifying when you make it forward into LGR without Sittingbourne having a district council. I think we need to sell this to people, not ask them what they want. We need to show them what a difference it will make. Because Sittingbourne sat here with Swale House, somehow people think they don't need one. I mean, I am out in the countryside, but Sittingbourne, it needs people.
I agree.
So I'm going to be out there selling it, not from my point of view, it's a negative, as a positive.
Yeah, I mean, I had a working group today and we were talking about, because we've got some funding. And of course, you know, it's much easier when it comes to Sheerness and Faversham, because in those instances, we'll say, oh, we think we've got this project, blah, blah, blah. And in certain instances, like Faversham, there was something around wayfinding a few years ago. They went off and delivered it. We had a pot of money. It was so much easier, and it means that custodianship, which Sittingbourne Town Centre desperately needs. It's so obvious we don't had that custodianship.
So we need to get some PR behind it.
Yeah, I agree
We
with
need
you.
to all get out behind it. It's not.
Don't worry, you've got someone here who's fucking. Yeah,
It was called sitting on district council. I'd just like to see what that map is. You just find a thing.
Yeah, she,
It went put up last time on my out. It went
Yeah.
past Shell. It was everywhere.
I think it's on wall here, isn't it? Well, the chairman, oh, well, it's the town clerk.
Wanted
built
to
my
be part of
house.
Sitting on a district council.
Yeah.
The Sittingbourne Urban District Council, wasn't it? When there was a
Yeah.
rural. council.
And it was Don Allen, who's is around the corner, who built my house. Who was the chief, he was the town clerk,
Ah,
part of the council. Fascinating fact.
now you've got me thinking.
Well, Louis said, honestly, we're not having much.
Certainly wouldn't have been the 8249 as it is now, would it?
This is going to predominantly affect more city model area community, isn't it?
Mm.
Because as I say, majority of the other communities all parish.
Yeah.
And
So we need to all get behind it.
Yeah.
Sitting on is the problem, and if it doesn't have any representation or money, it's going
Yeah,
to be
absolutely.
die. And if it's the growth area, the jobs and everything.
Highway board and bobbing all those boundary change suggestions. Suppose that people be consulted. That doesn't necessarily mean that we think it's a good idea, but we think they should be consulted. From a New Zealand estate along the A2, take files home to see if they want to be part of Gordon or Sittingbourne.
What's the final deadline for this?
Anything before next week's meeting.
So, why I say this is because if in the worst case scenario, Highstead Park is approved, the parishes, these rural parishes, Tunstall, Milstead, Sham, Bredgar, Batchart, and Hull, potentially will be completely dwarfed, and they may wish to change their boundary, but we don't know when that decision is going to be made. And that would be really unfortunate,
Yeah.
because what we were talking about in section 106 is a custodianship vehicle, which would be a significant, well, it might be one, it might be two. They would be significant things that, and I can't see how they're going to work alongside parish council, because if we look at areas, what's that place? Morning. No, the other one where they built loads of houses on the old airfield.
Oh, King.
King's Hill.
Yeah.
You have this sort of, I wouldn't say uncomfortable relationship, but you have this sort of oddity around the parish council being in charge of assets, and then you've got some sort of management
Oh, yeah,
vehicle.
yeah.
And it's not just like a management vehicle on a single estate. This would be enormous. And we're talking about 22,500 residents potentially. So it would have a really significant impact. I don't know how we deal with that.
Well, with all due respect, I really don't think we should. Got here and we need to go out and sell Sitting Bull.
Yeah.
Because that's the way.
But the problem is the timing of this, like you said, you know, if you've got 20 years potentially where you can't change boundaries, you're stuck with this.
Yeah.
To our lousy management company.
No, but there is an expectation that parish councils will be part of those. And I can't see that parish councils are going to be very excited about that, to be honest.
No.
So, anyway, put it out there.
But then high speed is not likely to start.
No, you need to get the
28, is
Sitting
it?
Bull.
Yeah, but
I know, but it's, they're always done and dusted.
Something about site could justify a boundary review.
I would argue that.
Yeah.
Halfway through.
It becomes vision that a separate.
It would sort of muck things right up, wouldn't it?
But you wouldn't, we'd have to wait till it's half delivered, because otherwise there wouldn't be the quantum in it to actually do.
well, the management vehicles aren't being capitalised, so they will start with no money in them.
Hmm.
And that is a major problem.
Just thinking of Tunstall, it'd be an opportunity to become rural again, because that urban was forced on half Tunstall, and it's not urban. The people that are in rural are more rural than the rural in places. Just want to put back behind it by saying, you know, let's go and sell Sitting Bull. It's such a brilliant,
Yeah.
it's a great place to live. We just need to tell them.
Yeah. I've been trying to get something like that for ages.
Can we get that back? I have put through Sitting Bull districts was going to.
I will-
I think it is.
Yeah.
Where that boundary ran.
I will ask, I'll be asking tomorrow.
Sittingbourne Historic Society will have it.
Yeah.
Not this, it's just trying to work out.
Okay, let me can get it. It's just a crown copyright.
It's just, I feel like I've seen them.
It's on the wall.
The room's called Harry.
Yeah, I think it's on the wall.
I'm gonna have a look.
You're asked to lead the meeting.
We're concentrating, right.
If you've got nothing else to say, you can go. Thank you very much again, Steph. That was something to think about. You know, it's see what happens. Yeah. Okay, moving on to agenda item 8, public forum. Are there any members of the public who would like to ask a question? I don't blame you. Okay, thank you very much. Agenda item 9, matters arise. Oh, no, not right. 8, should I say? No.
No, no.
We're getting it. Better tick that. Matters arising. You'll find matters arising update report, the agenda pack. Does anyone have any questions or comments?
Oh, yeah, look at that. Well done.
Okay, we'll go through these. Any questions on number 1? Bex and Fredka, conservation review.
Yeah, at one point I would like fed back is exactly the state was in the conservation area was made inquiry about one of the properties is grade 2 star listed. What's gone wrong there? I would like it now.
Possibly branding times to me.
Yeah, yeah. But I'm pleased that it has moved on at the financial though.
An excellent piece of work.
I think this is the government system again that's fed through duck information, but anyway.
There's anything to update on well, local heritage list. Okay, number 3, area of special control of advertisements.
Yippee. So this is my bugbear. I'm going to comment on it because this is around all those awful signs that don't have permission that trip you up in the high street, that shops put out that aren't in accordance with conservation areas, etc., and make the place look a mess. So I'm delighted by this.
Good. Item number 4, area committee review. See, it's agreed 14 recommendations, which have been now to the Policies and Resources Committee, which has been agreed. And it's next to go to full council. Council Bulldog.
Yeah, couldn't find it. Download the maps of Eastland, but just an update on the Swale local heritage list. We are arranging a date for probably January to judge the next round of local heritage proposals that have been made.
Thank you for the update. Number 5, public toilet facilities, public consultation. Any comments on that?
No, but I would like to say that I don't think we should be meeting in Swale House for Western area.
Yeah, I raised that this night.
It's, you wouldn't do it for Sheppey or Faversham. So I just think it's, and we've got plenty of village halls out there that we should be meeting in our own area. Got to say that.
I think that's something we can discuss.
We can see with the turnout tonight.
Not working, is it?
But we have got members of the public.
Sorry?
How often do we get members of the public? The trouble is our area is so huge.
It's huge, isn't it?
Yes. It's unlikely someone from one corner is going to turn up at the other corner. That's the trouble. I mean, some people you get around. More central.
People don't always want to go down country lanes.
But people live in the country, they've got to go down country lane anyway to get here normally.
Yeah.
I just think, we've got, it covers such a wide area from Backchild round, go around far enough, it's almost back to the beginning, but I Wade, with Hartlip, it's just, I think it's just insulting that we don't meet in the area that to represent next, and we have had people, okay, maybe people from the local area more likely to turn up, but when we meet in Bregga, we get people from Bregga turning up. We have a number of venues in the rural areas. I just think it's wrong that we meet on it. But
So it's been discussed again at full council. It's been 28th January. She could be wrong. So feed on it back to the member working.
it really should be up to us as a people committee where we meet. Anybody else say where we are?
Why did we stop meeting here again? I can't remember the reason.
No, the Wi-Fi is better here. Often,
Yeah.
if you listen online, you can't catch more than about one word in 10.
Chair, I do struggle to find venues that are available to book that have Wi-Fi. But we have found them, but they are limited. I mean, recently Robertshire.
Yeah, we don't mind going to Robinson.
Right, and I Wade's got good.
I've never been able to book it. Whenever I've tried, it's both the barn and the village hall. I've never.
Bobbing.
That's just recently had Wi-Fi installed.
It saves them a lot of work on the village hall. Very, very, very upset if we don't take advantage of it. Won't you, Steve?
Fit into the Wi-Fi.
That's normally how it works with village halls, isn't it? There's those who do.
And is this something that you think we should decide here?
Yeah. Okay, I'll make a proposal. I'll make a proposal, but.
Yeah.
We can indicate what we think.
Yeah.
The
Yes.
working group isn't a different decision-making body. We are.
P&R and,
Yeah.
They're making recommendations.
yeah.
That then get decided upon at full council.
I propose that the Western Area Committee should meet within the territory of the Western Area.
I'll second
Agree?
I oppose it because I know people struggle to get to Bredgar or Robinson or whatever, and that then our attendance goes down. People have told me that.
Yes. Yes. Well, let's vote on this officially, then, shall we? Those in favour? Those against? Okay, we say that's the working group first.
Recommendation.
for recommendation. Okay. Thank you. And the last one, item 6, well, local walking and cycling infrastructure planning.
Toilet? Did you do toilet?
I did say toilets.
Yeah, we've done toilets.
I did, but
You did.
Mike went back to.
Something else.
something else.
Okay.
If you want to go back to the toilets, I'm more than happy to go back to.
Sorry, Paul.
Terrible. Not a problem I've got, but
We don't know.
and public toilet facilities, public consultation. So have we got any questions on that?
All I can say is a lot of residents are still talking about it. I'm spending my life explaining why the forum toilets are shutting. I understand Chalkwell wasn't happy, but then maybe Chalkwell ought to. That's right.
It's not many more steps to the,
No, I know, and I know some of them go to Greg's and get
yes,
paid for it, you know, so don't get that far.
yes.
But-
Another few more steps, yeah. Okay. So the last one, is anything on this, well, local walking and cycling infrastructure plan? No, thank you very much.
They look very good. Do we know when we're going to hear back?
Actually, I should comment on that. It did come up in the public inquiry at Highstead, because it includes the lower road. Bit between
Oh, yeah.
Child and Town. And certainly from, and I know they're in the other area,
That's us.
not the west, sorry, the Hampshire one, eastern, yeah, east and west, never each shredded way. Was around the issues of Lower Road and how dangerous it is. And I have to say, I do agree with that. And this, I think, is, yeah, trying to put more cycling traffic along that road where, there's been, I think, quite a lot of accidents, including some deaths. So I do think we need to feed back around concerns about that. And I know that we've got to link between City Hall and Hampshire, and we've got the number one cycle route. But number one cycle route is not that Lower Road takes it off that. So I think we should know that, you know, because of the information that came up in the Highstead Park inquiry and whatever the outcome, but if the outcome is that is approved, that will make potentially that area even more dangerous. Which is part of what we argued, and the 5 parishes argued is, and the other group, is saying how dangerous it is along there.
Likewise with the Woodstock and Marines Farm corridor.
Yeah,
It'd make it lethal.
it would be an absolute death trap.
So do we need to review it now or wait till after the decision when you made it?
I think we should feed into it now and raise our concerns about that and how that can be addressed. Oh, okay, here we go.
I don't know a huge amount about it.
Yeah.
I'm having spoken to Michelle, who has led on this. I believe she's putting a report together for the committee, which will, having analysed all of the feedback from the consultation, so there may well be that comment in there.
Yeah.
Then that's going back to the committee, so I would guess at the
I suppose
committee meeting.
we can feed into her though now, can't we? It's a recommendation from Western Area Committee that, you know, there were issues raised in the Highstead Park inquiry and various parish councils and me, and I don't know if the other members on this committee agree that is concerns around the safety of,
The proposed cycle.
yeah, walking and
routes.
cycling routes. Because it's all well and good coming up with an idea, but we don't want to put people in a really dangerous position then.
It's negligent if you know of concerns
Yeah.
that are backed up, not to raise them. So I think we have duty to raise them. But personally, it's hard to see where you cycle anywhere safely. If you don't go along the lower road, you go along the A2, and that's pretty.
But it
But
might,
everywhere in Swale was lethal to cycle now.
yeah, I
Well,
mean,
chair is a cyclist, so
Yeah.
he knows that.
well, yeah, and I think it might be that, you know, some areas that they actually have to set aside a dedicated separate cycle route
Hmm.
and take it off-road.
There are cycle routes, but some
But-
of them aren't continuous, they just suddenly end
Yeah.
and you're stuck on your own.
But if you don't get that off-route thing through this LC whip, you
Like
won't get
funding.
developer contributions and you
that's
won't
right.
get, so it's really quite important we plead that in now so that they can take account of that. So that when it does come to developer contributions, you say, you need to cough up X amount of money to put in an area dedicated.
I can pass that action on to the action in bin to pass that on to Michelle. But is there
Yeah.
a section of the from and to Low Road?
Well, yeah, it's the bit really that takes you from Backchild into Tennant.
Can we add that on agenda item 12 then?
Oh, sorry, from Tom.
I was going to say Tom, yeah,
Tom, not
yeah,
Backchild,
yeah,
but from Tom
yeah, I was thinking,
into
no, it's Tom,
Tennant.
it's.
So a bit of a hazy spot there.
I have,
That's
you made me think.
a lot.
Quite a developable area there.
Yeah,
Oh, it
thank
is,
you
isn't it?
for that.
Actually, well, sorry, you don't mean to muck around with your time table, but toilets, we talked about this in the working group today because there's been an allocation of money. And the town centre toilets that by the library, we're considering actually is investing some money to do those up. As part of the grant funding we've had from government, so I think that would be.
So do we close one? Then, or do we leave that one open?
Yeah, the
Or-
library one is the one that's
staying,
it's
that's
always
staying
staying,
open.
but it does need work doing to it.
The forum stays open until the other one is upgraded.
I think that's the sense.
Yeah, yes, but
Yeah.
I've definitely heard that said.
Well, yeah, I don't know the details of that, but I know we were talking about capital funding to.
I think
The
this
refurbishment.
came up basically when we first started talking about toilets.
Came up in the
Okay.
environment committee, didn't
Yeah.
it? Because that was a discussion
Yeah.
round.
Or maybe that's when I listened to it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's somewhere.
Sorry, I'm sorry.
Maybe we can take
I'll
that
go
back
to
to the environment committee to do, especially if it works on that other toilet, yeah. Okay. Have you finished with that lot now? Can I move on? That's very kind of you.
You might want that.
You're in charge for that.
I can be in charge, I just like to be polite. Okay, agenda item 10 is the Swale Bus Forum minutes for noting. You'll find the latest minutes from the Swale Bus Forum in the agenda pack. Are there any issues anyone would like to, our representative in the forum, Councillor Mike Baldock, feedback to the forum?
Yes, I'll definitely make the last one.
Is there any chance that there's going to be any funding to get back any rural buses in time soon?
Well, I can take that to the next one and ask again.
That's what we'd like. You can shout it really loudly, because I think majority of people
That's what
here
we
would be
need.
for that.
Yeah. But with all these ideas being put forward, and they just get poo-pooed. They're not very, the bus companies aren't particularly flexible. They're not really interested in doing special rural pick-up and drop-off. They only want to do things that will be 5 days a week instead of, you know, doing 2 days in this village, 2 days in another village. But they're very stuck in their ways and not open to new ideas. Now, one of the things that we wanted to do as a council was look up putting on, but that's gone anywhere.
Actually, that is, if I may come in, that is the point where if we had a town council in Sittingbourne.
And it be within the image.
Exactly. So Faversham have put on about bus service going out to the rural communities and it's been pretty successful.
Yeah, you see it around a lot.
Yeah, and
Because I'll go to Faversham.
yeah, well, to be honest, I think my residents probably use that more if it went to Faversham.
They have been struggling with drivers, but
But like.
where I am in Grove Park, the end of the old bus routes up your way, Sarah.
Yeah.
There's now nothing. There's a elderly lady I know that's got a daughter with learning difficulties that's 50. We rarely see her in town now because there's no way of getting out and about, and she's just one that I know of.
You know, all my elderly villagers will regularly tell me,
Yeah,
that they feel really isolated.
sure.
Even places like Eden Village,
Yeah.
Nothing out that
Well,
way.
I mean, the shuttle bus that goes to the science park. That's it, really.
Hmm.
That, I don't know who runs that, but that could be,
Then,
it's, that could be.
we just
utilised
have
far
minutes of
better,
it. Oh, no, it's not
because
minutes,
it
that's
doesn't stop
exactly.
anywhere, doesn't go- Just goes to the
No,
station.
one of my, when I was working for Chalkwell, one of my previous drivers, he started off on that.
Mm.
And I know from him, it was purely to pick up people from the station,
Yeah.
to drop off at the science park. No stops on the way. They had to show their ID.
It's a waste, isn't it?
Yeah.
but what do you
Anyway.
think?
I don't think that's what they agreed, so that's probably.
So they had a commercial bus service, Chalkwell had a commercial bus service, then the science park brought along a Riva Click, which decimated the commercial service. Then that got cut because it was a pilot. And then when they got the extension permission, there was the, Chalkwell agreed to extend the existing Sittingbourne service.
Sure,
Now that bit has.
it's
fallen
not,
away.
it's just the shuttle bus.
Yeah, and so I think they run just the shuttle, but there is, and I pointed out in the inquiry, there was some money set aside for Spring Acres for buses, about 300,000. And KCC, I embarrassed them in the inquiry because I said we're now more than halfway through that estate. And KCC hadn't even applied to Swale to spend that money. Funnily enough, within a week, KCC have applied to take money from Swell, but I've not heard anything about how they've invested that for the benefit
I mean,
of
regularly.
the residents for Spring Acres, which is obviously in the western area.
Yeah,
Ward,
there's
so maybe
regularly
we can
these
take that.
developments, but they say, oh, they'll be put some money towards buses.
So when you go to the next bus partnership, it's worth getting a copy of the latest
Yeah.
section 106 and ask them, hold them to account, and say, have you spent this 300,000 that you know? Because I'd like to find out.
Yeah,
There's lots of money that we'd like to find out how it's been.
Yeah. I mean, they're now well into phase 2.
but it comes under rural isolation.
But they cut that bus service along the A2, so there used to be one every 10, 15 minutes. And so no matter, Backchild now has got one, if you're lucky, I think it's once an hour, but it's substantially less than it ever was.
Stagecoach once an hour.
Once an hour, there you go, see, wasn't making it up.
No.
So where they've spent that 300,000 in the locality on
Yeah.
bus services, it's not materialised.
And then they'll give you free weekend travel. Well, that's no good because there are no
Oh,
Sunday buses.
Exactly.
I've raised that with them.
So there you go. That's one for you. Thank you.
People in Medway are gobsmacked when I said we don't have buses on a Sunday.
I come from Crawley and it was,
Yeah.
you'd never leave your
Yeah.
car.
No,
One every 15 minutes, circular road.
It's 3 in the morning. If you knew what time the bus was running, not a problem. When I lived in London.
Yeah, everybody covered.
Yes. Yes.
My mum never had to worry, she just drove.
After I made a comment.
Okay, is there anything else that we want us to take that? No, that's fine. Thank you very much.
If anybody has anything they wish me to raise for the next one, just send me an email.
Thank you, Councillor Bullock.
No, just send me an email.
Moving on to agenda item 11, local issues to be raised. Do members have any issues you would like to raise on behalf of local residents or communities?
And you know I have one.
Yeah, Councillor Sarah Steve.
I was hoping the KCC councillors were here tonight because I've been contacted by a resident who's quite concerned and very unhappy about the flags.
and what's going to be done about them and where does Swale Borough Council stand with it, etc. She wanted to come tonight, but she had another appointment. But I think in the last couple of days, the whole of Minturn Avenue has got them now. So, you know, they're still going up. And I was hoping the KCC councillors would sort of answer what is happening at their level about these flags. Because she said just driving along to Tenham, I actually find it quite disconcerting.
I think at least part of it might be because I've heard that one of the main instigators in Faversham has been banned from Faversham after he got arrested.
Doesn't help us.
No, I agree, but the two may be linked.
That's good.
So we've been running like an officer, internal officer, community sort of cohesion and tension group, and I haven't heard about the Minturn Avenue ones, but sort of positional flags have been discussed, and I think KCC, us and the police have kind of stuck with the view that unless they're causing an obstruction or it's a public safety issue, then they will be left. I'm assuming they're on lampposts along Minturn Avenue.
High up and whatever, yeah.
Yeah, and then obviously Faversham's kind of been at the forefront of a lot of this, and
Yeah, it's not been good there.
The main instigator down there is not supposed to be down there at the moment, but equally, you know, there's other groups we know in other areas that there've been other people putting flags up. Ultimately, I would just say for residents or for any of you, got our safety unit email address, if you're aware of any tensions, any issues, email that through to us and we'll liaise with the police over it. Then if they're just up and they're not causing any massive issues, then yeah, the view is that they'll stay up. If they are up and are resulting in other concerns, etc., then they will at least be.
Yeah, because there's been talk of health workers being at risk and things like that, haven't they, in some areas.
Well, I
Not,
think-
I'm not necessarily Swale, but there's
Yeah.
sort of general.
Is that person who would come tonight, she lived
She didn't give her address in the email. She's stop.
because we
Residents.
drive down into Avenue to the end of it. So that's got its own flagpole. And you think, oh, perhaps.
Well, you said I mean, she actually said she's got no issues with people putting it in their own gardens. and
No,
things.
No.
And that's fine. But it's quite, you know, driving along the A2, it's like, I just wish it.
And we all know why they're put up, and
Yes.
it's nothing to do with patriotism. at all.
So I don't think we can make that assumption. I think that is something that is, I think, highly debatable.
Yeah.
well, so apart from all of that, I just think, yeah, they might look right for about 5 minutes, but as soon as the weather's got them
Yeah.
and they shredded, and then they start wrapping themselves around, and as was pointed out to me the other day when I did my, what's it called, the HIP, Highway Improvement Plan with the KCC officer, we're talking about something in Robsham, and we've got a bus stop sign on actually a signpost. And she said, well, that shouldn't be on there because it's not the right wind loading. And actually, potentially, you can have the thing fall over and stuff like that. It's been there for like 20 years. No one's ever complained about it. But I got her point. And the thing is, you know, we've tried to do things down the high street by putting up Christmas lights.
Yeah.
And everybody has to get a special license with a special electrician. And then we've got some Herberts going around with a ladder. And it looks rubbish after about 3 months because you've got some torn and tatty thing, and then it looks like no one cares about it. So I do have a problem when they start looking rubbish. And I do find, you know, that the fact that they're cable tied, you know, if you put a proper flag on a flagpole and it looks smart, I don't have a problem with that.
No.
But when it's a cable tied cheapo 199 Amazon jobby or whatever it is, tied to a lamppost. Yeah,
Or it's the
exactly.
Union Jack upside down.
Yeah, I just see it looks naff, and everything we try and do to make,
Yeah.
especially the villages, I talk about my village in particular, but also the ones I represent, is they all make the effort to make the villages look smart, and the last thing you want is stuff that looks really tatty flapping about.
And there's been issues elsewhere in Kent about putting up Christmas lights with
Yeah.
the flags. And it's
Like that.
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
So I did have want to bring it.
Councillor Bullock.
I'd like us to raise, there was some stuff put in last year's budget and the corporate strategy about tackling loneliness. And I would like to know what's being done to progress that element of strategy in the Western Area Committee?
I can answer to an extent. So it's one of my team who've been leading on the loneliness work, and it's our CBS that we have asked to obviously deliver on a lot of the work. I know she's had a recent update report, and I believe it's not yet been circulated to members. It's due to be, not seen it yet, okay. So there is an update report that's due to be circulated. I don't know the specificities about what might be action specifically within Western, but we can ask. I know that we're asking CBS to do more work with the town and parish councils as well, because I think something that hasn't been looked at yet needs to be.
Yeah.
And we can certainly get a more update for the next area committee.
Well, could I have someone from Swale CVS? I changed my hat here. Can we have someone from Swale? Ah, yeah. Can we suggest that someone from Swale CVS attends the next Swale Area Committee to discuss parish councils?
Good idea.
Chair agrees.
And the feedback we've had on the board, because Paul and I are elected trustees, and it all seems to be going quite positive. So, didn't it, on the last meeting we went to? I didn't see a report, but it was
No,
talked
they have
about,
been raising specific funds and.
Yeah.
and
and they're going to do sort of Christmas
council
lunches and
grants
things like that.
grants and towards that. So I thought it was a great idea.
Good.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's on the constant agenda procedures, so.
Something completely separate.
Sorry.
I was just thinking about how I advertised this meeting to my residents tonight. I would do a very lastminute.com sort of thing on my councillor page. On post. But have we got any decent maps of what Western Area Committee is? We cover it, area covers.
I'm not sure about the maps, I think.
So that would be really useful, because when I go out and say, you can come to Western Area Committee, they go, what's that?
Yeah,
And
that's
am
the big-
I included in that area? And I think we need a nice map to say, this is the Western Area Committee. If you live in this area, you're entitled to come along.
There must be some made.
I've got one. When it's first formed, I've got.
I don't know, but can we circulate it? And do we even have a space on the Swale website to say Swale, Western Area Committee? And this is what the things we're looking at.
It could be
These are
broad.
things obviously things we've discussed will be in the minutes or, our notes or whatever. And the documents in it. But if they're going to come along to it, they might want a bit of background. Yeah, you can click on the bit, but is there something where we can embellish it with a bit more information
And
than
visuals,
just a list of
Yeah.
agendas? Bit dry, isn't it?
yeah, visuals quite helpful.
Sell it. Try and get the up in
Well,
down.
that's it for all of the area committees, because
Well, yeah.
people won't know which,
But we'll
where they are
lead
on
the light,
those.
I think, Up the numbers. Use it or lose it.
Yes, we've got to make some inroads into
Yeah.
advertising where we are to start off with.
Mm.
I mean, what we're doing, it's another matter, but you actually, so people are aware that they're in that wall
Yeah. Can put it on social media
and
as
it's on that
well.
area, in that area committee.
Yeah.
But I have got that.
But we need somehow to publish that somewhere that people can see.
I'll send it to you anyway. But,
Yeah.
So you've got a map.
Send it to me as well.
My pleasure.
Whole group.
Yeah, send it to Janet and maybe Janet can forward it to.
Thank you.
I'll find it, it's on my desktop, because I often look at it, because I think, who's also having, so, yeah.
Cheers. Lovely. Right. Anything else?
Okay, thank you very much. Agenda item 12, matter to be referred to service and committee chairs consideration.
There was anything, don't go for the committee.
Right. Okay, so are we happy with that? So the dates of the next meeting in 12th Feb 2026. And the moment it's still in the committee room, Swale House. Hopefully we'll make a decision. Okay, so I will close the meeting. Thank you very much.
Well done, Chair.
Well done. Thanks, Steph.
Thank you. Bye.
Goodbye.
Oh.
Bye, everyone.
You can